it in, it was in block 1. Maybe objective 3 or something like that. But basically, the reason we talk about career progression is our career field is very fortunate to have officers and civilian assignments folks who are very engaged and aware of individual requirements, but also organizational needs. Okay. Now, they fortunately are able to dial in via DCO and broadcast for us their spread the word briefing, where they're going to talk about all of the different opportunities that are available for officers. Now, today's the officers assignments coach. Friday is going to be the civilian assignments coach. Now, the reason we put all of the students in the same classroom when we do these is so that you get the same standardized briefing, but 2, we open up enough time in the post-briefing to allow you for one-on-one sessions. So take advantage of that opportunity, because what you get is basically a one-on-one time with Captain Cook to talk about your individual situation and plan. So, Captain Decker, if you want to just kind of lead up the effort on gathering names of people that want to speak with Captain Cook, I would appreciate that. So, basically, FinSOC's only got 2 officers, obviously. But for you all, anybody that's active duty officer that would like to speak with the assignments folks that actually decide where you're going to go, where you're going to go, and what opportunities are available, these are the folks. Now, the rest of you may be wondering, why in the world would we want to listen in on the officers' assignment brief and their career progression? Well, the answer is because you helped develop us. You're the ones that helped make us, especially the next generation of comptrollers. So what they're going to show you are the timelines, expectations, and basically outline for us, the CGOs, how to be successful in the career field. But in the reality, it's our senior enlisted and it's our civilian force that make that actually happen. But you guys are our backbone, you are our mentors, you're the ones that see us on a day-to-day basis, you're the ones that make sure that we actually become the comptrollers that you expect us to be. So this is the assignments folks that will make that happen, but you're the ones that will actually train us and teach us to get there. So it's good for you to be aware of what's going on. Now for the civilians, prepare yourselves for a briefing similar in the sense that there are opportunities that match up on the officer side, but different to the approach of how you go about getting selected and how you go about volunteering for some of those opportunities. So Mr. Serta is actually traveling here in person. So he is also going to open up his time during the day to meet with you one-on-one, so you guys can have that same kind of conversation that the officers get with Captain Cook. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Captain Cook, and he's going to take it away.
Hey, Captain Wright, it's Captain Cook. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. If you guys need me to speak up at any time, I'll do the best I can in a crowded office. So I kind of balance that with making sure you guys can hear me and not overbearing everybody else. First, thanks for your time, for allowing me to speak to you today. Thanks for your service. Whether you're a military, civilian, doesn't matter. You're serving your country, and I really appreciate that. If you have questions during this briefing, please stop me and ask. I don't want anybody to get lost because some of this stuff builds on, the slides build on each other, so I don't want anybody to get left behind. So if you have any questions, concerns, something doesn't seem right, you don't understand it, just raise your hand. Make this as interactive as possible. So just please, if you have questions, let me know as we go through this. This is what we're going to talk about, assignments and development. Okay, meeting current needs of the Air Force's #1 priority as we match officers to assignments. That's followed by officer professional development, functional priorities, and finally member preferences. Our short-term goal is to meet the mission requirements while also keeping in mind long-term goal of developing our 65F workforce. Matches are based on an officer's current skills required to develop further as a 65F, position requirements, what your ADP says, what your squadron commander or equivalent says about you in your ADP, what they think is next that's best for you. We take all of that into consideration, but of course the driving factor is always needs of the Air Force. We love it when all these priorities align, and we try to make that happen. However, we'll always make the decision of putting Air Force needs and professional development over your personal preferences. It's not anything against anybody, it's just mission's got to come. All right, so just to kind of set the stage, let's talk about how the moving process works. The assignment cycle begins with an initial VML, or vulnerable to move list. Based on the assignment AFI, lieutenants are added to the VML, or the vulnerable to move list, at 3 years at their initial duty station, and we expect our lieutenants to move at the 3-year point. On occasion, we do leave lieutenants in place a 4th year if it makes sense for professional development, like if they're in at LA in a SPO job and they can get a level 2 certification, or maybe they're in a situation where they're a deputy flight commander, and if they stay a 4th year, they can be a flight commander, or something along those lines. But for the most part, we move everybody at 3 years. There's a couple of exceptions that often cause some confusion. The AFI does allow us to move officers from CONUS to OCONUS at 24 months time on station. This is used in rare instances for must-fill jobs that we're unable to fill off the current VML. An example of this would be occasionally you'll see a hot jobs message that'll go out seeking volunteers for a position in Korea or Qatar that we were unable to fill off of the VML. So we will take a look at possibly folks with 2 years time on station that their squadron commander or equivalent feel like they're ready to move and can step up to the next level of responsibility, and we'll fill that job sometimes. The AFI allows officers to move for a joint spouse at 12 months, but a joint spouse request, and the system does not guarantee an assignment at 12 months. There must be a valid position where the member will be performing the duties in which they are trained. It also must align with the officer's professional development and the best interests of the Air Force. All right, so let's talk real quick about the assignment cycle timeline. Officer assignments operate on 3 cycles: spring, summer, and fall. Each cycle starts with the assignment team identifying officers that are vulnerable to move. So as an example, we're finishing up the fall cycle. So back on 1 April, we identified officers and posted them to the VML on 1 April. Squadron commanders or equivalents had from the 1st of April to the 11th of April to submit a reclama saying that they want that person to stay a 4th year, and this is the reason why. The approval process for that reclama is down here. The assignment team makes the call as to whether or not we can afford to leave that person in place for a 4th year or for another cycle, as it sometimes is the case. And then once we make all of those calls, we post the final VML on 17 April. Just because you're on the final VML does not guarantee a move, it just means that you are likely to move. So the next block is last day to submit recs or requisitions for an officer. So that's somebody that needs an officer in their organization. They have to let us know by the 23rd of April. So then the 22nd, or the 2nd to the 22nd of May, the requirements were visible, and we had a DCO shortly after that. And how we do that is we take a list, because there's always way more jobs available than we have people available. So what we do is we rack and stack all of those on priorities, and I'll get to the priorities in a different slide. And we rack and stack them 1 through 3 in priority order. And we have a DCO, and on that DCO we invite all the officers that are on the final VML to tune in and fill out their ADP according to the jobs that are on the DCO. We can't fill them all, so we put on there what we realistically think we're going to fill and have those officers fill out their ADP accordingly. So we just finished up the assignment matching process yesterday, and assignments were loaded. So those folks that are selected for an assignment will move or report to their new location in the October to January timeframe. A lot on that one slide. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. So this is the prioritization I was talking about in the earlier slide. It's called the NERP, or the non-rated prioritization plan. The DT is the decision authority on how the NERP is structured and what jobs go into a critical or priority 1, a priority as in priority 2, and a fill to entitlement categories. There's a renewed focus on acquisition positions and how they're filled. General Brown out at AFMC, and now General Pletcher, who's going in behind him, is leading this effort to examine this process. So I expect some positions to move from a priority 3 acquisitions up into a priority 2, and possibly even some positions into a priority 1. All right, so I talked about the ADP in an earlier slide. Here's some do's and don'ts that we recommend you consider while completing your ADP. It's important that you're upfront with the assignment team and address any factors you consider when completing your ADP for the next assignment. These factors include joint spouse requests, special duty consideration, exceptional family member program, humanitarian, or any other extenuating circumstances that we might need to be aware of. Tell me the stuff that I can't see on your CERF. You know, I can see what's in your OPR. I can see your duty titles. Tell me things like, I'll complete my master's degree in December, or I'm 50% of the way through SOS by correspondence, or IDE by correspondence, or whatever the case may be. That's the stuff I can't see. So tell me that type of stuff. Don't focus on a single location or a specific job. I encourage you to use all the blocks that are available on the ADP. We have some people that will just list one because that's the only job they want, and a lot of times we can't make that happen. So we have to fill them. We have to place them where we need them the most, and that leaves them with no say in their assignment. So I'd rather have some say, so fill out all the blocks that you can, and give us plenty of options so we can work with. Also, add any communications that you've had with us in your ADP. So if you've talked to us and said, hey, you know, I need to, I got this issue or this location, you know, help solve an issue that I've got, or if you've had any other communication with us, please add that to the ADP comments. You know, we've got 646 officers that we manage, so we need to make sure you remind us. We don't remember every phone call or every email conversation. So plus I'm old, so this will help me immensely when it comes time to do these assignments. All right, let's talk about development. So this is the development team. They provide career field oversight and shaping and policy. In August of this year, they will select the folks that are going to attend intermediate developmental education, senior developmental education, that will go to school next year. They will also select the folks that will come out on the Squadron CC candidate list that will go into Squadron Command jobs in the summer of 15. The DT is made up of MAJCOM FMs with SAF FM representation, and it is co-chaired by Ms. Thomas, who's the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for FM, and Major General Martin, who's the SAF FMB. All right, let's talk real quick about career broadening programs. There are lots of exciting career broadening opportunities that are available to the FM career field. The first group are the Special Experience Exchange Duty, or SPEED programs. These are great opportunities for those of you that are looking for an experience outside of FM. The concept is that you'll gain a greater breadth of experience, making you a more well-rounded FM officer in the future. A new program we have this year is the FSEP, or the Financial Management and Contracting Exchange Program. After your first assignment, you can apply for this program and work in contracting squadron and get certified and get a level 1 warrant. It's a great new program. It really kind of closes the loop. What happens on the back end after you certify Form 9, and you know, what happens in the middle between the time that contract's awarded and we make final payment. So it's a great skill set to have, especially going forward in a fiscal environment like it looks like we're going to have for the next few years. Other opportunities are out there, such as obtaining an advanced academic degree through AFIT. As you may or may not know, AFIT is located at Wright-Patt Air Force Base, and you earn a master's in cost analysis. Following the completion of the 18-month program, you'll be assigned to a specially identified position requiring that skill set that you just gained in that academic, advanced academic degree. We have 12 slots for the master's program in cost. We have those every year. We get asked quite often about acquisitions jobs. Most of the time during the assignment cycle, we don't get to priority 3 jobs. And if AFIT is something that, or acquisitions or cost is something that you're truly interested in, an AFIT slot, going through there and getting that advanced academic degree from AFIT is a guaranteed way to get you into an acquisition job. Like I said earlier, they're examining certain jobs at the different SPOs to move forward into priority 1s and priority 2 jobs. Something else that we have is we look for volunteers to get a PhD in economics, and then after that it's a 5-year payback tour. The positions are at FMC and the Pentagon, down at DFM and CS at Wright-Patt. This is a really great program. You go to school at a civilian institution. The requirements are that you complete the PhD in economics within 3 years. So, I mean, we've had folks that go to George Washington and DC. We had a guy several years ago that went to University of Hawaii. You have to have qualifying scores which I can give you more information on that if you like, to be able to get into this program, but it's a good gig. Go to school for 3 years, get a PhD. Time on station for speed, the speed programs and the advanced academic degrees is 2 years at the start of the program. Applications are due around the 30th of this year. We just closed out the application process for the folks that are going to start to school next year. The board will be held soon and the results will be released in November, and the officer begins the program in the following summer. With this timeline, if you wait until the summer before you're scheduled to PCS to be considered for these opportunities, it's too late. You need to apply the summer before you want to enter the program. If you're interested in these programs, talk with your leadership now to ensure you get your application in at the appropriate time. And of course, we're always available to talk to you if you have any questions. My counterpart, Major Jen Smith, she has PCS. Our new assignments officer is on his way in. His name is Captain Tyler Hess. He is an AFPC grad and has lots of experience in it. So we definitely have some recent experience that could talk to you through the program if you like. It's a good gig, so I'd highly encourage you to consider that. All right, this slide says FM Career Path Checklist, but this is really the information that's required to get you in the game. You know, General Martin has said several times, performance is what's critical. He talks about that should be first class and always. These items on this checklist, you know, all of these are easily completable. What sets you apart is how well you do them, and in some cases when you do them. Strats on your OPRs, DGs in schools, volunteering for opportunities, they're all difference makers when it comes time to people looking at your records. You know, some people say your career is like a marathon. Well, a marathon's still a race. You got folks that finish in the top, some in the middle, and some that just appear to be running for fun. Be the folks finishing in the top, run to it and embrace these challenges. You know, we find a lot of people that, that job's not in my job jar, that's not in my swim lane, or whatever. As FMers, everything is in your job jar, because you're the wing commander's eyes and ears when it comes to his money, not just for FM money, but mission money, non-mission money. So there's lots of challenges that are out there, so make sure that you run to them and embrace those challenges, and that's what sets you apart as far as your performance goes and helps get those strats on your OPRs. So make sure you run into that stuff. Advanced academic degrees, specifically AFPC, like I said, are seeing a renewed focus from the DT. The advanced academic degree follow-on tour helps create a well-rounded 65F officers. The cost analysis skill set is becoming increasingly important. It's easy to be an FMer when funding is abundant. You know, it's not having to make difficult choices when everybody's got a lot of money. Where we really earn our keep as FMers is during the lean times, and a strong base in cost analysis will help, and is definitely a sought-after trait in the coming years. One word of advice: don't race the DT, and what I mean by that is when you're eligible for IDE, SDE, Squadron Command, etc., the DT will review your records and decide where it is that you need to go next and what you need to do. If you have one of these things that you need to do, like an advanced academic degree or PME by correspondence, and I'll get to both of those in just a second specifically because there's some changes on those. Don't race the DT. What I mean by that is when you're eligible to complete the training or get the certificate, get them done right away. You know, we have people that will call in the day before the DT. Hey, I just finished IDE. Can you get that in my record right before the DT starts? Sorry, we can't. It's got to be in the system by then. So make sure that you get that stuff done as soon as possible. Cannot stress the importance of having your records up to date and current. Make sure your duty titles are up to date, short tours are out there. Make sure all your OPRs are in your record. Occasionally we'll pull records and send them to a DT member because they want to look at somebody, and sure enough they're missing an OPR from like 2 years ago. So make sure that your OPRs and all of your records are up to date. Now, let's talk about advanced academic degrees and PME by correspondence real quick. You may or may not seen the What We Value memo from the CSAF. He has come out and said that advanced academic degrees will not be looked at until a Colonel's Board, and that if you are a school select for IDE or SDE, that you will not be allowed to enroll by correspondence to complete those programs. What he is saying is the Air Force has made a commitment that as a select they will send you to school, so there's no reason for you to complete it once by correspondence and once in residence. He does go on to encourage folks that are not school selects to go ahead and complete it by correspondence. Just by the fact that you're not a school select off the promotion board does not mean that you won't go to school. It just means that they haven't guaranteed you a slot like they did the selects. So I highly encourage you, just like the CSAF does, to get that PME done by correspondence if you're a candidate right away. And I'll explain what a candidate is versus a select in a later slide. All right, worldwide we have less than 30 Chief of FMA positions available. That's total positions, not positions per cycle. So my advice is to seek the type of job you want and not the location. Example is we get a call all the time about a physio job at Hurlburt, a cost job at Eglin, and a budget position on the AFPC staff, all from the same officer saying, I think one of these is what's best next for me. So this clearly communicates to us that they're more concerned about the location than the needs of the Air Force and their professional development. There's absolutely nothing wrong with looking at locations. We like to create win-win situations, one that matches the Air Force needs, officer professional developments, and your preferences. And believe it or not, we're able to make those win-wins happen a lot of the time. But make sure that you have a sound plan for why you want to do one of those jobs. Look at what you want to be doing 3 to 5 years down the road and say, okay, what's the job that I need to do next that's going to help get me to that next type of job. So you kind of got to build a career plan a little bit. And we're, of course, here to help you with that. I'll have all of our contact information in a later slide so you can contact us. A quick word on institutional requirements and career broadening opportunities. So institutional requirements are must-fills, and they're like ROTC, OTS instructors, SOS instructors, etc. We will get what they call a levy or a tax or a certain number of positions we have to fill each cycle. So those jobs are priority zeros for us, so they have to be filled before any of our FM jobs get filled. So if that's something that you're interested in, then by all means update it on your ADP. It's more for the CGO level. We are undermanned in FGOs and cannot support releasing FGOs for that, and we do not get tasked for that type of a levy at the FGO level, so it's mostly for the CGOs. Let's see. Yep, I talked about the career broadening, the FSEP, Colt and Elite, all good programs, folks that we've had success in the past. All these are in the speed guide, and it's available on the MyPurse website. If you just go out there and in the search box type speed, the guide will come up and it'll have all you need to know about all of these career broadening programs. But if you're considering a career broadening program, development and timing are significant factors. Some people will say, oh, you need to do this right after your first assignment. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Maybe your first assignment was 1 year to lodges. It's probably not the best time to do a career broadening after that. So if this is something you're truly interested in, talk to us about it. Talk to your squadron commander equivalent and get back to us. We'll be happy to sit down and talk you through the development piece and the timing piece and what it is that we consider when we place people on those assignments. All right, so let's talk about the Squadron Command Board. All right, so we are a must-compete career field. So all FM officers that are eligible must compete whether they want to or not. So major selects, majors, and lieutenant colonels. The requirement is to have 15 months time on station by 1 January with a DROS, meaning you're coming back from overseas or you're in a must-move status. If you're in a joint position, 34 months to get joint credit, but we can waiver that down to 22 months. The Air Force is probably the worst in the DoD in making sure that folks stay the full time in the joint, so they are cracking down on some of these waivers. So we have to make sure we get permission before those officers meet the board. Officers not eligible is obviously if you have an open UIF or you are deferred for promotion. If you are IPZ to 06 in the next 2 years that you would be taken to assignments, or taking that assignment, we wouldn't want somebody that's IPZ to go out to a squadron commander job. So the GT, the slide that I showed you earlier, they select the candidate list. All officers are required to submit an SOI or a statement of intent, meaning I understand that I'm a worldwide volunteer, and I also understand I'll accept a assignment anywhere, and I want to command, and this is why. Or I understand I have to commit, or I have to submit for command, but I don't want to command, and this is why. MAJCOM FMs, then once the squadron commander candidate list is completed at the DT, Shortly after that, MatchCom FM start bidding candidates out to wing CCs in an effort to get those folks hired to the commands positions that they want them to go into. All right, let's talk about acquisition officers versus FM officers, because there's a lot of information out there, most of it bad, concerning acquisition officers versus O&M officers. So the slide speaks for itself. There's a common assumption out there that folks in acquisitions don't do as well as the folks with purely O&M backgrounds. So what Major Smith and I did was we reviewed the last 3 squadron commanders board, and officers with acquisition experience and O&M experience scored very close. The scoring scale is a 6, meaning the worst record they've ever seen, to a 10, being the best record they've ever seen. The proof is in the pudding. The scores were extremely close. 8.26 versus 8.27, acquisition to O&M. So we took it a step further, and the last 3 boards, in each instance, with the exception of 1 year, and it was almost the same 50%. The last 3 years, 50% of the officers that had acquisition experience went on to be squadron commanders, so it was an even split. So what this tells you is it's about performance, not about the job that you're sitting in. Performance is the key. All right, so earlier we talked about IDE and SDE and how that is decided upon at the DT. So let's talk about how you become a select versus a candidate. So when you meet the promotion board for major and the promotion board for lieutenant colonel, that is what determines if you are a select or a candidate. So at the majors board, what they do is they take all the majors, and this last promotion board, there was some 2,300 majors, and they racked and stacked them 1 to N, and then they drew a line at 20%. If you were above the line at 20%, that means that you were a school select. If you were below the line, that means that you are a candidate. Like I said earlier, just because you're a candidate doesn't mean you won't go to school. It just means the Air Force has not guaranteed you a slot like they have with the selects. So they do the same thing for the lieutenant colonels. Only the percentage is smaller. It's 15% versus 20 at the majors board. So how the IDE SDE process works, the DT, senior raters nominate selects and candidates via the 3849, and the IDE has a 3-year window of eligibility, or 3 looks. The SDE has a 4-year window of eligibility, or 4 looks. So meaning you have 3 opportunities, or 3 years that you'll be looked at to go to school. If you are a 2004 year group major or major select, your first look for school is this year to go to school next year. So then I would have, in my case, I would have 2 more looks to go. For SDE, it's 4 looks, so it's 4 years instead of 3. So the DT recommends nominees to go to IDE and SDE. Only officers with a 3849 nomination are forwarded to that process. The DEDB is the Developmental Education Designation Board, and they match the designees to the schools. Now the DT provides a vector on those on where they would like the person to go, but the Developmental Education Designation Board is the final say-so. We also have officers that are eligible for in-residence credit, and some request it, and some do not, but get it anyway. Officers can request in-residence PME credit if they have completed an advanced academic degree in AFIT. That's for the IDE. For SDE, if they have a PhD, they can also request in-residence credit for SDE. How that happens is when DT meets, the officer must score above the cut line to be selected for IDE or SDE, and then that person can be awarded credit. All right, quick update on force management. This is purely from a manning perspective, not any new programs perspective. So this is kind of what we're dealing with down here. A lot of the officer losses are front-loaded in 14 and 15. The Air Force took a big whack to try and get that manning down to a manageable level. But the positions, those reductions are spread across the fiscal years through FY17. So we have even less people available to fill positions that don't come off the books for a while. So it presents a bit of a challenge. The 2014 assignment cycles were impacted by officer losses heavily. Expect to lose somewhere between 42 and 45 officers within the next 6 to 8 months. 22 of those will be captains. 9 majors, 4 lieutenant colonels, I believe. That number is climbing There's a second round of Terra that is due to be released soon, and I expect that number to continue to climb. You add into that our normal attrition rate, which is folks that did their 4 years or 5 years and just want to be done. For whatever reason, FM tends to attrit higher, slightly higher than other line of the Air Force AFSCs. So you couple another 10% loss for attrition on top of the force management. That creates shortfalls. Shortfall, we're already short in lieutenant colonels. So you couple that with the force management programs that are out there, both voluntary and involuntary, and it creates a ripple effect. But what that means is there's opportunities that are out there. Those lieutenant colonel jobs are filled by majors. Give those majors opportunities to step up. Major jobs are filled by captains, and give those captains the opportunity to step up. So while the manning situation is tough, opportunities are out there for sure. So I encourage you to take advantage of them when you can. All right, takeaways. First, last, and always, performance is what counts. Excel in your job, and the next job will take care of itself. This is nothing new. Complete your advanced academic degree as appropriate based on the What We Value memo from the CSAF. Complete developmental education as soon as you can if you are a candidate. Remember, IDE and SDE selects are prohibited from doing so. If you're interested in career broadening, make sure you talk to your leadership about that and then talk to us. And make sure that your duty titles and your scope and type of work are up to date. This goes back to what's on your CERF. You want to make sure that all that information is accurate. Because what the DT members do is they review your CERFs and your OPRs and all that kind of good stuff when they decide on what's best next for you. So make sure that all that stuff is the most current information that's available. Finally, if we're not friends on Facebook, we'd like to be. You can search Comptroller Assignments and request us as a friend, and we will grant you access. This is good because we put information out there. Congratulations, these are the Lieutenant Colonel selects, and congratulations, these are the people that were picked up for Squadron Command, that kind of thing. But where we find it extremely useful is folks that are in different time zones, maybe Korea, Qatar, something along those lines, and it's difficult for us to line up. We can send them a Facebook message, and a lot of people are on Facebook a lot, so you can get back to us, and we can work out whatever situation is that way. So it's a useful tool from several angles. Don't take offense if I don't like the picture of you and your dog. No offense, but we just try and keep it professional out there, and please don't invite me to play Candy Crush. I will not play Candy Crush. These are our contact info. Captain Tyler Hess is not here yet, but he's inbound and will be here this week. Those are our numbers that ring directly on our desk. 3976 is my line. 3977 will be Captain Hess's line. Call us. Like I said, these lines ring directly on our desk. We'd love to talk to you guys about anything and everything. Assignments, professional development, advice, whatever you need. We're here for you. So don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call us. And with that, I'll take any questions you guys got.
Of course, and this is Petty Master Sergeant Lewis. I'm from National Guard Bureau. Concerning some of your officer slots, I'm wondering, is the Guard able to compete for any of those slots that are available? And if so, do you see, I guess it's carrying on, as far as the package that they are submitting, are they competitive concerning the requirements coming from a Guard perspective? And another question I have for you is, from an enlisted side of the house, are there any opportunities for the advanced degrees that if they don't fall under you, are you aware of what side of the house you would contact for if the enlisted have an opportunity to compete with some of the advanced degrees?
Sure. First, the advanced academic degree, please. I think I heard you. It was a little bit difficult, but I think you were asking if there are advanced academic degree for enlisted available. And there used to be a master's degree slot at AFPC that was specifically for enlisted. And let me look up the number for you to call real quick. Sorry, let me look this. Tell you what, I don't have it at my fingertips, but what I'll do is I'll get it to Captain Wright, and he'll pass it along to you. And I did not catch at all the first part of your question. Can you repeat that for me?
Yes, sir. The first part had to do with Guard officers and their ability to compete for some of the positions that you mentioned. I wonder if there is any type of agreement going on where the guard can fill the slots or guards be provided slots for some of the positions that you spoke of earlier.
Sure. So there are some positions. The squadron commander out at Hickam right now is filled by the reserves. I understand that that is different. That was kind of a test case for a total force integration type thing. This past PSDM, or personnel service delivery model, that went out, or memo rather, that went out for the squadron commander board for this year, AFPC decided not to allow guard and reserve officers to compete for active duty command spots. It has to do with manning and several other formulas. So to answer your question outright, no. In the past, yes, those officers were considered, but currently, no, they are not considered for any of these opportunities. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir, thank you.
You got it, Captain.
Okay. All right, what else you guys got?
Captain Cook, we've got quite a few civilians in the classroom. Any advice on how the civilians can more effectively help mentor our company grade officers for these opportunities?
Yeah, so great segue. Appreciate that setup. It's one of those things where, especially for the folks that are out in SPOs and like LA and Wright Pat and stuff like that, and folks that are maybe a budget officer at a base and they have a lieutenant that's a deputy budget officer and stuff like that. Obviously bringing them along, like you mentioned in their intro, and training them up is crucial. But also what those OPRs say is extremely crucial too. It's a competitive environment. Anytime you've got force shaping, force management boards that go on, they're looking for a quality cut line, and those officers, those OPRs need to be uptight, and they need to be accurately reflecting their performance. Now, I'm not saying that they need to be, sunshine and roses if they're not sunshine and roses. That's where the honest feedback comes in for those positions. But a lot of times, we'll talk to folks and they'll say, especially if it's a civilian supervisor or something along those lines, well, they're doing a great job, and I really think that they've got great potential and they're moving right along, but then the OPR doesn't say that. So I think that's one thing that they can definitely help the most. But the other thing is pushing them hard to make sure that performance is there. This is like I said, it's a competitive environment. People have to perform. So push those guys and gals and make sure that they're out there doing what they need to do and they're living up to your expectations, and have that honest conversation.